Hello and welcome back to Furry Found Footage. In today's episode, we'll take a look at the French-Belgian animated film Wolfy, The Incredible Secret. Do you lot like vore? Well, strap in. This is a movie I first saw many years ago when it was on Netflix. It came out in 2013, so it must have been around then. I know a lot of movies with animal people in them like to include bits about vore and all that, but Wolfy wears vore on its sleeve like a heart tattoo that says mom, except instead of mom, it says vore. Wolfy is based on Grégoire Sautereff's 1989 book Lulu, which is Wolfy's name in French. Interestingly, Grégoire worked as a doctor for years before becoming an illustrator for French publishing house Hatier. While Wolfy is definitely a weird movie, it's far from the most bizarre thing Sautereff is responsible for. That said, I think his bold style speaks for itself. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Wolfy is a wolf of indeterminate age, living amid a family of rabbits, snoozing naked in boats, while Tom, his adoptive brother, I guess, sleeps on his crotch. So these two drift downriver like baby Moses until they land ashore, and Wolfy, zombie-like, finds himself lured in by a singing raven until he happens upon this big-nosed baddie hanging out in her cozy trailer in the woods. Glamping? Take a look at the most horrifying transformation moment ever animated. The woman shows Wolfy a vision of his mother, the Princess Olympe de Wolfenberg, whose throne has been usurped by the evil Louis André. Together, Wolfy and Tom set out to right this wrong and discover Wolfy's true origins. So Wolfy lives with all these rabbits? Since Wolfy saw a car and a crystal ball, he wants to take one to Wolfenberg, and his siblings give him the hookup with Uncle Vanyan's old rally car. Even though I'm guessing Wolfy's never driven, the grand road trip montage begins, full of pee and darkness. This handsome gent, the pretender Prince of Wolfenberg, observed from afar as Wolfy and Tom arrived in Wolfenberg. He is assisted by his super spy vixen girlfriend, Scarlet. Wolfy and Tom want to check into a hotel, but unfortunately they don't accept guests who are,
in the nude, sir?
And this dude really throws around some off-color slurs.
No fang right here.
Naked and dejected, our heroes wander off to a hostel and find a woman with the biggest set of pig tits I think I've ever seen. I'm sure it's totally fine that she keeps her husband's head on the wall, right?
It used to belong to my late husband, Mr. Galantine.
Is that your husband?
It was.
Time for some education. Do you guys know what a galantine is? A galantine is a French dish made of deboned stuffed meat that's usually poached and served cold like an aspic. Galantines are usually stuffed with forcemeat, which is like shredded sausage kind of meat. So if you look up galantine, you get all these photos of some pretty intense looking meat dishes, and that is what Mrs. Pig here is named after, and probably what she turned her husband into. So Wolfenberg seems to have a culture that mostly revolves around hunting and eating. After a dinner and a slumber, the pig, Rosetta, takes Wolfy and Tom to get some duds. After they get dressed up, they realize the town is hauntingly empty. But no worries, Café Croque Monsieur is open, and it's, lovely.
Oh, here. It's nice, isn't it?
These people are eyeing Tom like a piece of meat, and a certain vixen is singing classic detective story hot redhead music, and this guy likes hunting foxes.
I don't know about you fellas, but I personally always liked hunting foxes myself.
After an altercation with the lieutenant of the Prince's Guard, Paul Loup, the vixen saves Tom, but not before we hear some in-universe, grumbly-voiced husband dialogue.
Rules are only for dogs. You know that better than anyone. We wolves are special, honey.
And wait for it.
No fangs aren't allowed in this cafe, but you couldn't know. You're not from here.
Okay, they're racist.
Avoid uniforms.
Good advice. Wolfy starts asking about his mom, and instead of answering the question, Scarlet asks Wolfy out for the night. But where...
Hey, losers!
Oh, there she is. Together with Scarlet, they break into the castle and observe the Gallery of Pedigrees, where the members of the Lupine dynasty are enshrined, reproducing many famous works of art from our world. While we're here, we hear of the Carnet Festival and about Prince Louis-André, the current sovereign. Mysterious. Finally, they find a portrait of Wolfy's mother, but the secret police discover them and toss them in prison. Just when it looks like all hope is lost, the No-Fang resistance movement breaks in to recover the prisoners. Wolfy and Tom land right in the middle of some kind of weird sport the predators are putting on. They draw hungry, malicious glances. Yeah, Scarlet saves them at the last minute by pretending to be Wolfy's date, and although the prince wants him dead, Scarlet presents Wolfy to him. Meanwhile, this weird gambling hunt begins with Tom as fodder. When the gun fires, 7 voracious hunting dogs chase after him. I'm guessing the point of this is whichever non-sapient dog kills the talking rabbit is the winner, like a horse race but with blood and gore. Because Tom survives, the prince invites him to the palace. Meanwhile, in a distant greenhouse, it's revealed the princess is leading the revolution, and for Captain N's failure to return with her son, she requires a sacrifice to her weird carnivorous plant.
You need a little blow to your pride now, and it gives Fiorella such pleasure after all. Come on, give me your tinky.
Wolfy and Tom receive apartments in the palace, and maybe not. Tom's new role is to take care of the rabid bears that they keep chained in a stable. Honestly, it's bear shit the way they treat him. Wolfy happens upon this intimate moment between Scarlet and the prince.
Finger of doe's blood?
Apparently they drink doe's blood in Wolfenburg. During their conversation, the prince disappears, leaving Wolfy to wander about his chambers. Wolfy is put to the test, and it seems he's more prey than predator. The prince explains to Wolfy that his mother is dead, and that she happened to be the prince's cousin. Wolfy howls, and his not-dead mother returns the pained howl. Scarlet recruits Tom to take her on a date.
A beautiful redhead and a beautiful red car go together. Oh, Tommy, let's go. Let's get out of here tonight, the 2 of us.
Apropos of nothing. As Wolfy adjusts to palace life, Lieutenant Paul Loop enlists him into some kind of ass-kicking panopticon and tortures him until late evening with the intent to turn the soft, prey-like twink into a macho he-wolf. Tom is fed up, and since he's apparently banging Scarlet now, he demands she leave Wolfenburg with him. But Scarlet is all excited about the Carnet Festival. She also wants to marry the prince, so there's this love triangle thing going on.
You change your mind all the time, don't you?
Fickle vixens often change their path.
The Carnet Festival is full of mostly identifiable predators. I don't know what this purple dude is. There's a massive banquet and the guests go absolutely wild, greedily devouring
Eat up, my vixen.
everything in sight. The lieutenant drunkenly goes on about a promotion to leader of the pack, and then the waiters release live chicks, which the predator guests promptly devour, feathers and all. Okay, really for real vore. Bold. Wolfy, now addressed as Ludwig, is named as leader of the pack instead, and at the same time, Tom links up with the No-Fang resistance. Tom's convinced that Wolfy has completely changed sides. Scarlet is wrestling her own feelings for Wolfy, which makes this like a love square. And then the resistance arrives. Now, at this point, Wolfy thinks the resistance has killed his mother. He's been poisoned by the prince's side of the story. So he calls the guards, and there's an altercation. Then all goes dark. Okay, there's a wolf cult. Definitely my kind of spooky villainy. Wolfy must face the trial by blood. He must kill whatever is in the bag. Oh, it's a dream. Thank goodness. The raven, Cornelia, who appears earlier in the film, comes to share a prophecy with the prince, who swears to kill her if it proves false. He must hunt the chameleon doe. With tensions soaring, the Carnet Festival hunt begins. I love the prince's ghoulish golden mask. He takes this host of bloodthirsty predators into the woods. The festival is purely hunt and kill, and he who kills most wins. Tom and the rebels are prepared. They trap and maybe even kill the predators. The prince locates the doe, and he's determined to slaughter her by his own hand and become master of the forest. Eventually, the prince fakes injury and dresses Wolfy as himself to throw off the assassins. Wolfy alone chases the chameleon doe right into the resistance's trap. At the last moment, Tom, realizing it's Wolfy, takes the assassin's stake to save him. The prince surrounds the rebels and prepares to eliminate them. Although the lieutenant has grown fond of Wolfy, he acquiesces to the prince's murderous desire, when suddenly the princess arrives.
Wolfy, my son.
Mother? It's my mom!
Deus ex principessa, right? It turns out the princess married a goat, so Wolfy is half goat. The prince wanted her hand, but since they're cousins... Oh, okay, royal inbreds, got it. It turns out the resistance leader is Wolfy's sibling, and his sister at that. Total shock. The prince orders their death, but Cornelia turns the princess's plant into these monstrous little ghouls.
Go, Fiorella!
Cornelia herself is an incarnation of the chameleon doe. At the last second, the prince, desperate, takes Wolfy hostage, but Scarlet's magic fingers disable him with bliss.
Prince of this kingdom, I am in command. I have the power of life. Oh.
That's kind of kinky. The princess regains her throne at last. Things in Wolfenburg appear a bit more egalitarian under the new princess, and the hero's polycule drives off into a new adventure as our story ends. That felt like a lot. This is the first time I've done a full-length movie on furry found footage, and I'm glad you guys stuck with me because now I'm going to do some analysis. The animation in Wolfy is stupendous, perhaps more so because it's a little different than we're used to seeing. By 2013, traditionally animated movies were becoming fewer and further between, and animation from places other than Hollywood rarely garnered any press anyways. The film was Eric Omon's only directorial credit. The production company, Prima Linea, shut down in 2020 amid founder Valerie Sherman's dire warnings that since distributors only want to, quote, ape the American films, French animation faces a dark future without innovation. Given the recent HBO Max animation disembowelment and the release of the Pinocchio remake, the future of American animation looks pretty dark too. But enough gloom and doom, why don't we talk furry appeal? If there's one thing furries like, it's vore. Vore's been around as long as eating. Nowadays, a new fetish is invented roughly every 3.5 seconds. But vore is truly a keystone that gets a lot of folks through the day. Eat or be eaten and all that. I wager it's because eating is something we do every day, so it's a natural extension. When I first saw Wolfy, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was weird, off-kilter, the story wasn't much at first. For the opening sequence, you sit there wondering if it's a kid's movie or an adult movie. But 20 minutes in, things start to get very furry. You've got Mrs. Galantine with her husband's head on the wall, and then the Predator Cafe. There are like 100 snarly, toothy monster maws in this movie for eager preds to look at and say me, and eager prey to look at and say eat me. The cafe scene alone is the sort of tooth and claw milieu I've seen in countless images, and I'd venture to say the entire theme of the movie is the relationship, for better or worse, between predator and prey. Multiple times we see these big groups of well-animated gluttons immersed in the context of fine dining. This, of course, is a delicious juxtaposition between their monstrous, amoral appetites and the fine trappings of the upper crust, illustrating the presence of corruption in any elite class. The prince's banquet hall is decorated with a medieval French tapestry of the Beast of Revelations. I just thought you should know. Vore is still eating people, and that tends to be a death sentence. Sorry, softies. In this case, the metaphor would be extremely weak if these characters weren't in actual peril and were looking forward to using a stomach as a sleeping bag. But I digress. This is a film made in a country which once revolted against its opulent rulers, and it's obvious that wealth and power is literally predatory in the world of Wolfy. They can barely keep from springing out and devouring Tom, the prey outsider from a small, poor countryside community. The ruling class eats meat and drinks blood, and the prince himself has a host of vampiric qualities in his white fur and red eyes. His apparent fondness for darkness. His chambers are decorated with dozens of trophies, doubtless from his own personal hunts. He is drinking and eating, preying upon his lessers, and in the end, his own endless desire to ensnare prey proves his downfall, along with the vegetarian onslaught of his cousin, who perhaps has discarded her own carnivorous appetites. The original Dracula story was an analysis of class. Perhaps the prince's predatory desires had gone too far, and he lost the mandate of rulership originally granted to him by the embodiment of the forest in the Chameleon Dell. Whichever way you cut it, Wolfy is a visually and thematically stunning film. It's the kind of grown-up animation that people tired of the Disney drip feed long for, and one that doesn't devolve into crassness like so many other supposedly adult-oriented animated properties. It also doesn't hide the horrors of the world from younger viewers through use of metaphor and theme. In short, Wolfy, the Incredible Secret really is incredible. See you next time.